This week on Gaming Dudes Podcast.
Basically, it's like, what the heck, crap. And then, so this whole time he's just above her, staring at her. Like,
just sitting there, eyes probably crossed.
She then does this weird power thing where she's like, and then she warps into like three of her.
I'm definitely zooming in on that.
Like, so then she becomes three people that are all like weird. Like, she cloned herself, but they're like ghosts. Hello, episode of Gaming Dudes Podcast. I'm Bren.
I'm Spidey.
And we are back.
Yes.
Talking about another episode. Or, well, doing another episode.
Yes, doing another
Late,
episode.
of course.
Yes.
But we're doing it. We watched Bren and Web.
Yep. Separately, he got to see it before it was out of theaters. So
Barely before.
So I didn't expect it to be out that much. I thought maybe people would like keep it in. They would keep it in just for like, you know.
No, they got out.
Memes sake.
As fast as possible.
They would keep it in.
Yeah, they got it out like as fast as humanly possible. It's the worst movie I've ever seen.
It is the worst,
hands down.
Yeah,
the worst movie.
It is the worst movie I've ever seen
in my entire life.
It is. It is
by a long shot.
I didn't expect it to be I expected it to be bad, but I did not. I even remember saying in my head, I did not expect it to be that bad.
When you were watching it?
Yes, I even said to my friend that was there, I was like, yeah, dude, I expected this to be horrible. I did not expect it to be this horrible. And it was that horrible.
So obviously Madam Web is like a cool
character. We got the whole...
What do you think about... What kind of stuff do you think they did that was like, what are you doing?
Basically the entire thing. So
character-wise, is any of it how the comic book is with her?
No, not at all. Like I said, there's actually...
So she had nothing to do with Uncle Ben.
There's no preamble for how she got her powers. She just got her powers. And they kind of were like, okay, she's Madam Web now. They didn't
so when they were making a movie, they were like, oh, we better
like
do something
deeply... And that's a fine idea. You know,
except they did a horrible job.
It's just... It's like, oh, expanding on the comic is great. The 90s cartoon did actually expand on the symbiote and give it those negative traits. Not the dancing, but the negative emotions. That's what I'm saying. So that's what that did. So, and then the comic stole it. The comic literally stole the idea because it was so good. Because originally there was no negative stuff with the symbiote at all. It was just nothing.
Okay, that's cool. But, so it doesn't really have anything to do with how Madam Web... Because I don't know anything about Madam Web besides her in the cartoon, which didn't explain much about her.
No. It didn't. It honestly didn't even have to. It was kind of cooler her being a little bit mysterious.
Yeah.
But
this movie, she knew Uncle Ben.
That's actually an alright connection. That's the
cool.
one idea where it's like, okay, that's not an awful idea. Because...
And why did they change like what Ben's phrase was? Like, why were they trying to change that?
Yeah, and then the spider guy says it.
Yeah.
The weird-looking spider tribal guy says it.
Are you trying to make it... See, or maybe that was... Maybe they weren't trying to change it. Maybe they're saying that's like,
the start
over time
of it.
It shapes to what it was for Peter, but...
And that's fine. The problem is, why did the spider guy say it? And let's get into the beginning of the movie for the people, because usually we do this. So at the beginning, there's like these explorers who are in the Amazon looking for a spider. The mom wants to like cure diseases. That's essentially what it is. Like probably.
Is that
cancer.
what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is why she was out there.
It's curing diseases.
I zoned out a lot because it was the worst thing I've ever seen, and the acting is horrendous.
Oh yeah, it was horrible. So,
like, and the mom was like bad, but the villain is the worst.
Oh, hands
down.
So
it was like she looked almost good around.
Yeah, she wasn't even like she didn't even get time to like actually properly do anything, but just drop the old "hey, this is what I'm doing" thing. So like she never got to sit down and actually like.
So it's like, okay,
be a character.
It's like, okay, you're a weird so she wanted to cure.
She wanted a cure.
Things. Well, no, she wanted a cure for like the disease for her daughter.
Yeah,
remember?
Yeah, I think it was that.
You don't find that out till like basically the end.
Yeah, you thought she was
because
just going...
the whole time Madam Web was like, my mom picked spiders over me, like stuff like that. But
yeah, it's like
she's like all mad.
What are you talking about? What?
But it was worth it, Mom. That's one of the phrases.
Yeah, it was that bad.
And what about when she was she's like, sees that a Spider-Man can climb up the wall and then decides to try to climb up the wall herself.
Yeah, that was
How does that make it...
That was interesting.
She's like...
And then slips down.
Completely falls. I'm like...
If she would have actually climbed the wall, I would have been like...
It would have been hilarious.
I'd be like, no.
But I was literally like, what is happening? This woman is an idiot.
She's like, oh, the spider must have the state powers.
Like, how are you supposed to know if you never try? It's like, because you aren't Spider-Man?
No. And you saw the other guy climbing up walls, I understand, but... also, no.
Okay, so in Amazon, the guy's like, wants the spiders for some reason, which is never said why.
He says, I want the power. I remember Moist Critical was like, oh, he just wants power. Like, that was...
he just wants to be Spider-Man.
He just wants to be powerful. Yeah, he wants to be powerful.
Okay.
Probably evil, most likely, just to be bad. The actual character was motivated by riches. Like, more so. Like, he wanted to be rich.
We don't know anything that he built. We don't know anything that he was...
And then he
kept saying he wanted to protect what he built. Like, what did you build?
He shoots...
You're rich. That's all we know. And we don't even really know that you're that rich.
No, he's an interesting...
Because the whole scene that he's in, any scene that he's in is like, he's just in his apartment.
If it were
his nice apartment.
He's in his nice apartment. He's rich as can be. He has everything. He literally has everything. Like, there's nothing to build.
Yeah, apparently.
There's nothing to build.
But it's like, we don't know what he's built. Why would I think you're rich? Because you wear a nice suit and have a nice apartment. You didn't show me any reason of him being rich. Besides... that, like, weird technology girl who was, like, on the...
And she just was like...
He's basically saying he's going to kill her if she doesn't find...
Yeah, it was clearly... She must have been...
Actress.
She must have been an NSA person. She had to have been an NSA person.
So anyway...
So
he wants power.
He wants power.
They don't really say why he wants Spider-Man power either.
Like, he goes with her.
He doesn't do anything with it besides trying to kill. No. We don't see him do
kids.
Anything besides him trying to kill kids, and he doesn't do a good job at all.
He fails horribly. He's like the worst. He's the worst / best part for me because of how bad his acting is. But at least it was funny.
Terrible.
At least it was funny.
His voice is like monotone. He has an accent.
I'm going to get the power. Like, he's very...
It was so bad. But, so yeah, then he's in the woods. He's fighting with the pregnant mom to get the spider. She's like, no, don't take the spider.
Yeah.
Which is weird that she wouldn't let it go. Like, why does she care if... Oh, because it's for her daughter.
Yeah. But also, you can still use it for him, too.
But at that time, you don't know that. So you're like, why is she not just giving up the spider? She has a baby in her stomach.
Because I do remember her saying, oh, I want to cure people. Like, other people clearly had this disease.
Or, well, even just... Probably just diseases in general.
Disease in general, yeah. She thought.
But it's like, isn't there a lot of spiders there, or are they just saying
somehow they find just one? Yeah, that doesn't.
Because it looked like there was more than one.
Yet they're fighting over this one spider, like.
Because he had like one. He had one.
He had
one
there's more than just
spider. One.
Yeah. How is there a whole tribe if there's only one?
Yeah.
So basically,
and the tribe had one because tribe had a different one because they had. So she gets shot. The dude tries to take the spider from her for 2 seconds. She doesn't give it up. He shoots a pregnant woman.
And he shoots two unnamed...
Which is like a terrible...
two unnamed people. Like, they're just there. And I thought, oh, he's just stealing the notes. He's just going to take the notes. He whoops his gun out. There's no music playing.
Yeah.
No drama. He shoots the two guys.
Like, shoots pregnant woman.
And then shoots a pregnant woman. It's like, what?
And then he takes the spider and leaves. And that's the whole opening. And I was like, oh, this is the worst.
I died laughing. I actually.
Oh no! Laughed. And then these village people are like,
these weird spider throat Mongolian
like,
throat
all
singing
sliding
freaks.
Down, and I was like, what is going on?
They come in.
So was there actually like a tribe out in there, and is like that like in the comics?
I don't remember any of it being in any of the comics, but I will look up Ezekiel because I think his backstory.
I know Ezekiel's a thing.
His backstory this is his backstory. In a lot of ways, this spider situation with the Amazon is his backstory.
Oh, okay.
So I want to make sure this is like accurate on.
So they just added Madam Web in there with him.
He ritualistically gained power similar to Spider-Man, but it's not saying anything about actual.
But it's like, so they just decided to throw Madam Web in on his story.
Backstory. In fact, it might have been a more interesting movie if they just stuck with his story and
not with that acting.
Yeah, I'm saying not with that acting. No,
they probably paid him like trash too to be in it.
Oh yeah, and he tried. He tried.
The sad part is he did seem like he was trying.
He was trying really hard, really hard.
And that's kind of sad, but.
And then the spider people deliver the baby. They deliver Madam Web, Cassie Webb, as they call her, Cassandra. And then we get a time skip. So there's no narration, no nothing to explain how she got
that time
here.
skip was so jarring. The whole movie was jarring. It actually took me watching a good movie like Dune. We just watched Dune yesterday. I'm not kidding. To snap out of. I was in a trance of what? Is it something wrong with me? Do I just not understand the movie? It's like, no, this is just so bad.
I also was actually kind of in a trance too.
You're like, wait, am I
I didn't even notice.
Not getting something? And then they do a jump to her in New York.
She's like,
there's no growing up, no foster showing her in the foster system. She's just a grown up.
EMT immediately.
And then someone flips her off
some kid significant to the plot. Which I thought it was just gonna be a joke. I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, this is actually it's stupid, but
the jokes did not land.
They did not land. No.
It wasn't it just wasn't done well.
Her flipping her off. That was. I was like, I completely think this. I thought it was stupid, but I was like, it's something I could at least see happening.
The guy who played Uncle Ben was the best part of the whole thing.
And he didn't even he actually played. I wish he was Uncle Ben in the movie.
But so she gets to New York. She's an EMT,
and that's it. Yep, she's an EMT.
Jumped, and then they kind of show her So this is how bad the movie is. When she's looking through that suitcase of her mom's stuff. They have her talking to her cat, so it's it was the camera's way. It was the movie's way of explaining, look at all this stuff about her mom that you didn't know.
Yeah, that's how she learned.
And the way they had to do it is her talking to her feline,
talking to a
poorly,
cat.
By the way, poorly.
Not even in a fun way. It was just a bad way.
So she was there was many times the movie was describing things in detail where she's talking to herself, but she's not talking to herself. She's talking to her cat. So you're just oh, the movie is using the cat as a ploy for her to be able to not weirdly speak out loud.
Yeah, so it's not
what's going on.
And honestly, I would have been okay if she just spoke out loud what's going on, because that fits this type of movie where it's if it was a detective thing, because it was kind of going into a detective sort of case thing where it's oh, how did my mom die? How did this stuff happen?
Even though we know how it happened, so who cares?
That's true, but it was.
You didn't even show us.
It was.
Dude, it would have been way better to have it be we don't know.
Yeah.
Until she goes to the Amazon.
They don't just show the beginning of the.
Why did you open it up
with the past?
It would have been a lot better having things happen and seeing her figure it out, not show the audience and then have her. Because then it just feels like it drags on.
That's what I was saying. It almost makes me feel like there were two different movies being made. Yeah, I just if there were two, it feels like there were two movies being made. Where it's you have a mystery piece, and then you have a weird
Except the mystery piece, we saw the answers.
I know, but I'm saying
so it's why did you do that
before they made it? Maybe they were planning to actually do that. And then some exec came in and they were like, "We got to have the
Here's the thing, though.
Scene.
Nothing gets solved.
No,
they don't solve anything.
Yep, it gets
She's
dropped
through the suitcase.
Midway.
She somehow knows that her mom's in the Amazon. She goes to the Amazon with a picture from 40 years ago,
and
it looks the exact same.
Basically,
40 years later.
Nothing. Learns
the way that she knows where she's supposed to go is she lifts up a photo,
and it's the same.
And it matches the exact same from 40 years ago. That's not makes no sense. And then that guy's just in his clothes, hello, I've been waiting here.
I've been waiting here for you.
I promised your mother, who I didn't know at all.
I promised your mother that I would see you.
I just met you for 2 seconds, and then I put you up for adoption. Instead of raising you here, which would have been cooler. Yeah,
that was pretty crappy. And to be honest, what was funny about him was he also was the only person in the movie, other than Uncle Ben, where I was I'm not saying he was a good actor, but I understood why he was in the plot. Like, I understood he was the only part of the plot where I was like, okay, I get this guy.
Yeah, but
why
it still
isn't
makes no sense, though.
Why isn't he in the movie at the beginning?
You don't know who the mom is. He barely knew who the mom was. He grabs the baby, puts her up for adoption, and then waits in the jungle for 30 years.
Why didn't he, like, contact her? Like, why didn't he, like...
You actually were a piece of trash.
He was a piece of trash, 100%.
So anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but jumps to her being in New York.
An EMT.
An EMT, and then it's just like a bunch of boring scenes of her finding out that she has powers, but it takes her like 10 times of seeing the future to be like, wait a minute, she have
sees
powers.
3 times. So first, it's when she's like helping these people out of a car that's like on the side of a bridge.
Oh yeah.
And then she like helps them out. She goes in, the car somehow really slowly tips. Like it slowly tips.
But it didn't tip with the other people in there, so she must weigh a ton.
She must weigh like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
1,000, and that's why I said it actually. No, people actually get that reference.
So then,
so she tips. It slowly tips over. She can walk out of this thing. She can easily get out of this thing. Tips over.
Falls in the water. Then all of a sudden, this makes no sense. But it was like the coolest CGI of the whole movie.
Like these webs.
It's like these webs start flying out of her, and she's like in the water. It doesn't make any sense. And she comes back. Ben saves her, who's also both very chill that she almost died. Like, wasn't...
He's like, oh, it's like he almost knew she wasn't gonna die. That's the funny part. Even though she fell into the water. Realistically, if you're in that situation, you're dead. There's no getting you out of the water. You're buried in a metal, like a hunk of metal, in the basically the ocean. That's the ocean. It's not a lake. It's not like, oh, I fell into a lake. This is the ocean.
Is it?
It was. It was in New York. That's closer to the ocean. It's like you fell here. You're in this car. The doors are closed. How do they get you out of there? So they immediately cut to her out of the water. And she's sitting there, and then Ben like takes her oxygen. And he is a little weirded out that her oxygen is like completely fine. He's like, "Oh, this is very strange."
Yeah.
This is very strange that you're fine. They don't even, like, elaborate on what that is.
No.
They're just like, nope. And then the time reverses.
She sees that Ben reads her stuff, so she knows what her oxygen level is before Ben reads it.
And then
she sees the future.
So
she says it. Ben acts like it's kind of weird that she knew that. And then she thinks nothing of it, goes home.
Like, he brushes past
besides her being like, why are you repeating this again? Like, I get it.
And then we see a freaking bird smash into the window of her apartment.
Yeah.
And she's like, she sees the bird smash in, and then the bird goes back in. Time passes. She opens the window. Bird comes back in, and it's fine. Doesn't question why this is happening.
Anything. Doesn't question why she sees it. She's like, huh. There's other times too. There's like there's a time where she's at that party with.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the party
with Ben's sister, where she's like playing a game, and then she's like, "We already did this."
She's like, "We already did this," and it's like
again. It's like, okay, how many times did it take you? Then there's a guy who's in an ambulance, the one that kind of took not the final one, but her boss in an ambulance. He sees her dying. He sees her boss dying in the ambulance, getting crashed into, which. From a car going maybe 20 miles an hour. And somehow totally annihilates him.
yeah, it's like going...
It's going... And then he's full dead. Like just annihilated dead.
He's dead. She doesn't go to his funeral.
She sees that in the future. Then doesn't go to his funeral.
Even though they were friends.
Doesn't go to his funeral. Like... Doesn't care about that at all.
It barely tries to stop him from dying.
Then she's finally like, oh, I guess I can see the future.
So
it's a long, dragged-out segment of her finding out she can see the future.
Yeah, it's the worst. The worst. Notice, like, in any other superhero movie, this would be glossed over in, like, 10 minutes. Or, like, 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it would have been done way better, too.
Oh, yeah, it would have been like, like Spider-Man. He sticks to walls. He figures it out.
And Uncle Ben's, like, a total G and, like, believes her immediately.
He believes her immediately with everything she says.
And takes on those 3 girls.
Takes those
He's like,
3 girls.
He's like, absolutely.
And then, so Villain Boy, we were introduced to Villain...
So then we get Villain Boy.
Villain Boy. And
who goes to the opera.
He goes to this opera. He's just in the opera.
He sees a woman, And there's like some really bad like flirting scene, which I didn't even know was flirting. First I thought he was just being a douche. So he like looks at her a bunch, is like, and she's weirded out at first. Like even in the theater, she's kind of like, okay.
He's like some.
And then he like has a opera pamphlet, and he's like goes for it. He's like, and then he goes, and like gives it to her. And then all of a sudden they're in his apartment sleeping together.
Yep, he's like doing frat guy flirting.
And then you're
just
like,
looking at her.
And then you're like, wait a second.
And they're sleeping. They're bedded.
And then they actually go to sleep in his bed. Like they go to sleep. They sleep together. Classic. And then he gets up from his dream that he keeps having and explains that he's having this vision of these 3 spider women killing him, basically, over and over and over again every night.
The little lightning bolt.
So then he explains this to the woman who's not that weirded out that he's saying all this stuff that he sees as death and thinks that it's real. She's like, okay, like not even weirded out. Actually, not even that. She's not weirded out.
She's comforting
like,
him. She's comforting him. Like, oh, maybe this won't happen, you know. Oh. Yeah.
And then he says he needed to know an NSA agent. I don't even remember why, because the movie's so bad.
He's like, I know that the NSA are looking for me. He's like, have you ever had a dream of? He's like, that you are going to die. And that's literally word for word what he's saying. Like, essentially word for word.
So then she gets freaked out once he says an NSA agent thing. And then she starts kind of reaching for her purse to, like, get a gun. Like, oh,
and he's like,
a gun.
He, like, grabs her,
kills her.
With poison.
Like, so he literally, like, slept with her because he's a freaking douchebag, and then kills her.
If you were a good writer, you wouldn't have to explain that he's poisoning her. Obviously, she's getting poisoned. She's getting, like, green skin. Yeah. So he's like, I poisoned you.
Yeah, so he has
to tell the audience.
Oh, he's like, because then he's like, tell me this whatever before
the poison kills you.
It paralyzes your lips. I'm like, oh, like this guy's this total freak. Horrible acting. So then that's the end of the scene with him, where it's just like, okay.
It was probably.
I forgot. I'm not kidding. It took so long to get to this point that I forgot he was even in the movie.
He was hilarious.
Seriously,
he was hilarious. He was like a knockout.
Like, it took so long for them to get to this point in the film that I forgot this gentleman was even a part of the film. I'm not kidding. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's in it. I forgot. Like, that's how long it took for them to tell you that she can see the future, for her to figure out she can see the future. Then she, like, gets on a train.
Oh yeah,
she's gonna get on a train to, like, what?
For nothing.
To run away? To... Like, we have no clue why she's getting on a train.
Yeah, there's basically no explanation.
And it's never explained the whole time.
The plot is happening. The plot is just happening.
Yeah.
In front of our faces.
So she goes to get on a train, and there's an incredibly long segment of her seeing visions but they're not visions that make any sense. They're not visions that help the situation.
No.
She sees like a moment of a situation of the Spider-Man guy like kind of like killing people on the train.
Yeah.
But then it's just people being like, hey, am I in the right train?
Over and over.
And she's
like reversing over
and over. And then it's another guy, like another woman, be like, you all right, sweetie? Like looking at her newspaper.
And also, she calls her sweetie, and she's not an old woman.
And there's another. Yeah, so little segments like that. This black gentleman in there being like, he's being like, what did he say?
Is this the right train?
No, that's the white guy.
Oh.
That's that business nerd that's like next to him.
Yeah, it's like, is this
the black guy on the train is like, he's like, oh, bet things are getting crazy around here. Like something like that. And you're like, and that stuff like this happens for probably like 10 minutes. It almost
sounds like he knows what's happening.
And then it kind of even happens multiple times too. This woman's staring at her. Because she's staring at other people. Then she sees the blonde like child Spider-Man girl
getting her neck
snapped. Her getting her neck snapped. And then she's like, oh, okay. And this goes on. Sees the other spider people that are in there.
This might be 5 minutes.
A long time.
This might be 5 minutes of
and
this
you're like,
happening.
Okay, what is happening? And then you finally actually see the spider Ezekiel on the train. Like, finally. So he's like walking over there and she's like, oh my gosh, I gotta get you off the train. She like tells these girls she's gotta get them off the train. There's this whole like really... Like, everyone listens to her besides the one Spider-Man girl with the skateboard.
Oh, yeah.
And she, like, takes her skateboard and is holding it up in the sky. Like, she's like, give me that! Holding the skateboard in the sky, and then there's she has a vision while she's doing that. So this whole time she has a vision, she's going like this, with, like, a girl's skateboard. She's getting a vision of, like, the Spider-Man guy again or something. I can't remember.
He's like, yeah, he's crawling
around
around.
the ceiling. Like, just so weird.
On top of the train. He's on top of the train crawling. Or on top of the... No, he's on top of the subway.
Gets a vision, and then it goes back to her, and the girl still hasn't gotten her skateboard back, and she's still holding it up. Not very high. Like
She's like stupidly... Like, her eyes were probably crossed in this situation.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
For so long. So then you finally get a glimpse of him in a spider suit for the first time, and he's, like, crawling on the ceiling. They go back on the train, and then she runs into the same guy who says, "Am I on the right train?" I don't know if that was supposed to be a joke.
No, it was
like
bad.
They were trying to be humorous.
It was so bad.
And then they go back off the train again.
I forgot it was again. I blanked that out.
They did it. They get on a train and off a train twice.
I blacked that out.
In the same train, by the way. Not a different train.
Same train. Like, you'd think... Yeah, no.
Gets off, or if it was a different train, it doesn't make any sense because it was immediately after
it was basically
the first train.
It was the same train. It was literally... It was.
Then they run into the subway. She steals a taxi cab.
Well, also, Spider Guy goes so slow to get them. He sees them.
Another thing was... This is something that I didn't get at all. Is they had... There's cops in the subway the whole time.
Yes, there are little.
So she sees a vision of her going past the cops, but the cops immediately arrest her. Why? We don't know.
I think it was...
Apparently it's because one of the girls said, "We're getting kidnapped."
And you weren't even getting kidnapped.
Even though she wasn't loud. The cops didn't even look at her.
And she just took your skateboard.
The cops didn't look at her when they said the kidnapping thing. So it's like the cops were just talking like, "Ha yeah," like joking around. And I'm like, why would you get arrested? Then... As they're trying to leave, finally, the last time, she does start getting arrested.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense.
It doesn't even look like she's kidnapping them.
No. And they didn't hear it because they didn't react. They didn't react for the whole time until they walked past her.
And Spider-Boy...
Man, you're going to come in with us. Oh, why does she have to come in with you? How does this make any sense?
Keep in mind, Spider Guy is out there. And in that scene, before they exit, he's slowly crawling towards them in the darkness. And he leaps down, and then they just run away. So he can't even catch them for crap. He doesn't have web, which makes no sense. He can't web them towards him. He doesn't have spider sense.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. Literally, the Spider-Man guy did no powers besides crawling and punching the whole time.
He crawls on that roof, and then they get out of there.
So you see him crawl, and remember that because this is all you get to see of him pretty much the whole time. He, crawls. She almost gets arrested for literally no reason. They don't even say why she's about to get arrested.
I think he kills the cops for no reason. He kills them.
Oh my gosh. And then it gets... But I'm saying, those girls are going to, be arrested.
Oh, yeah, no.
For no reason.
It's horrible.
They get into a cab, which she steals. Steals a cab. All the three girls are in the back. They all go with her, so it's like they're not being kidnapped.
What?
And then they keep trying to do jokes about... That her kidnapping, it's like, okay.
It's like they're still accusing her of kidnapping them. It's like, obviously, dude, you saw the spider guy.
Saw Spider-Man. Then she's like, okay, we'll go to my apartment, we'll lay low, we'll be chill. Or she's like, we'll be, gotta figure out what to do with you guys. She's like, I'm gonna drop you guys off at your parents. There's this whole emotional thing where they're admitting that their parents don't like them. My parents are rich, but they're never home. They all have parents. One's got one parent, one mom, one chick's dad got deported. The middle blonde chick's parents were like... She was living with her stepdad because her mom was in a psych ward. Yeah. It was like, what is even... It was so weird.
And none of it makes sense.
But you get explained later, and who cares?
Yeah. Who cares? None of this is establishing a backstory where I'm these characters are compelling.
There is no backstory being done that makes any sense.
It's just
why that you would even explain.
Why would you bring this up?
So, they're in the cab. Dude, and then all of a sudden she hears on the radio immediately that she's a cop killer.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Right away. They're like, oh. Right away, they're like, we're looking for this woman with three little girls, and she killed cops.
I forgot that.
I'm like, she killed cops, but on camera you have a Spider-Man person killing cops. But you think you're too stupid to figure out that you think it's the woman. Like, it's got to be the woman.
It's got to be the woman. The woman who's standing there scared.
So then she goes, drops these three girls off she's supposed to be protecting in the woods, and leaves them there.
Yep, leaves them.
No food, no water.
She's like, oh, there's no cameras here or whatever. There's no surveillance.
You're safe.
You're safe. In the middle of the woods. There could be some creepy old cracked out hermit going over there, and he's like... some creep old hermit.
So she saw, she then leaves. I don't remember why she leaves. She's, talking to...
She wants to figure out her backstory of her...
She goes to her apartment and looks through the suitcase, and that's when she tries to climb on the walls like an idiot. And then, so she's looking back into that suitcase, discussing it with her cat, so that way we're not confused by the plot, because
So she's not just
terrible.
talking to herself.
The cat's literally just a device to push the story along, so she's like talking to someone. Horrible.
I was joking that the cat was like the best actor in that scene.
Dude, I was saying she was. Because literally her speaking is like, oh yeah, Mom, I hope it was worth it.
I hope it was
like...
Dakota Johnson sounds dead inside.
Yeah.
Literally dead inside.
She's not a bad actress, so it's really weird that...
I feel like I've actually seen her in some movies. I swear I have. Guaranteed. There had to have been something I've seen.
So then... Yeah, so she goes into the suitcase. I forgot. In the suitcase. But that whole time the girls are like having dialogue with each other, which is so bad that I don't even remember.
I don't
They're
remember
like making fun of each other, kind of.
They're like, oh, yeah. They're like, Julia, you're uptight. You know, they're doing like...
One girl asks why her mom left her. Why'd your mom leave you? Like, outright, like, okay, like...
They asked Julia. Notice, actually, Julia was the one who was getting like all like the
most beat up,
the most guff from everybody.
Sure. She was also like the nicest by far. They then walk through the woods, and this part really confused me because they get dropped off into the woods in the daytime. They decide to walk to this cafe.
Yeah, this random diner in the middle of nowhere, like
they
50s
get out,
diner.
They walk. It takes them all day. It's nighttime. They're like beat by the time they get there. Oh, we finally made it! Thank God. But they get into the diner. They then see these boys.
And then they start dancing for them.
They then see these boys who they come over and they like make. But these girls in the movie are like supposed to be
teenagers,
like
yes,
young girls.
Young girls.
They then like make them kind of like tie their tops up and then go hit on the boys, and then they get up on the table and they're dancing around for the boys. It's like what is even happening right now? And they ordered like all the food on the menu. Like keep it coming. Like
also, how'd they have the money to?
Because the black girl's parents were like rich. So she had all this money.
I forgot about that.
Anyway.
And the other guys are...
So so then Madam Web goes back, sees that they're gone. It takes her like 10 minutes to figure out they're not there. Hello? You guys here? It's like, yeah, clearly not.
No.
She then has a vision of them dying, like listening to Britney Spears dancing on the table and then all dying. So she's like, oh crap, I gotta get to this diner really quick. She gets in there. She's in the taxi cab. It took them all day to walk to this diner. She gets to the diner, 2 minutes. So were they walking at the slowest pace of all time to get to the diner? Or are we just not adding up what's happening?
No.
Because she gets there before a Britney Spears song is over. That's 3 minutes.
And then also keep in mind, they're on the ground now. So she's in there. The time makes no sense. So they're on the ground not doing anything now.
Yeah.
How did they have time to get off the table within the instance of this time and be hanging out with each other?
No, because that was the vision.
Oh,
the whole part was her seeing a vision of them getting up on the table, which, by the way, is an incredibly long vision.
The longest vision.
It's such a long vision.
Might be the longest vision in the movie.
Because the movie's trying to make you think like, oh, they all died, but then it turns out it's in her head. Like she saw it happen. And then you're like...
And they still have the vision effect.
You didn't trick me. I was like, no. I know this is a vision.
You also have the vision effect, the glowy vision effect on the footage.
And then...
How is that...
I think they did have the glowy vision effect.
I thought they did.
Because I was like, clearly they're trying to like make you think that this was not a vision and have like a shock value moment.
I remember.
And then it's like, there is no... Like, you're trying... This is a vision, obviously. You're not going to kill off the 3 girls.
No.
In the... So she gets to the diner in like 2 seconds. They're dancing on the table again. We have to see them dancing on the table again.
The writers were interesting.
And then she takes him off. She crashes the car. No, because she gets there. The Spider-Man's about to attack, right? And then she crashes the car into the diner.
The first time, I think she actually walks into there. Last night we discussed it. She walked into there, and I think it restarted.
Oh, yeah, that was...
It restarted.
So she went through a whole vision of her walking in there.
Yep.
And them all getting beat up and dying. Then it comes back to reality, and she crashes into the building, hits Spider-Man, hits the Spider Guy, who gets crashed into...
Like 3 times in the movie.
Way more times than this. This is like her main strategy, is crashing a vehicle into the Spider-Man.
So he doesn't notice this vehicle going...
No Spidey sense, apparently.
No Spidey sense, which makes no sense because he does have Spidey sense in the freaking comic.
Yeah, well, he did. He had the opposite of Spidey sense in this.
He was an idiot. He was like,
So gets hit by a car, doesn't get to do anything. They get away again in the taxi cab that she took the license plate off of, but on the roof had the taxi ID on, so she would have been spotted in all areas. You didn't even take off the ID that the taxi could see at all times.
And then you crashed. Also, not only the property damage problem, where it's like, dude, you're not an Avenger. No one knows who you are. You just look like some crackhead who crashed into the freaking diner.
Yeah, no one's saying anything. No one even seemed that shocked in the background.
No.
So they leave, and then she's like, I need to go to the Amazon. Well, first she's thinking about how she needs to drop them off at their parents' house. And then that's when there's that emotional, like, we can't, we need, I don't have anywhere to go.
Even though your parents are perfectly fine and don't seem
she
that
leaves him
bad.
alone again in a hotel, and then goes to see Ben and tells Ben, like, hey.
Can you keep an eye on these girls?
Of course, Ben's a total G. Does.
And thankfully there's no cameras in this place. Like, this is off the grid. They establish in the story that this is off the grid.
Yeah.
Like, this is off the grid, so it's not a bad idea, actually. This is the one time in the movie where I'm like, okay, there's a little bit of logic applied, because if she goes back to her parents, there could be cameras around there. So, this makes sense.
So, yeah, she gets Ben. Ben's awesome. He's immediately doesn't even ask questions. Like, I don't get it, but absolutely. So he takes these three girls in. And then we get the main character, Madam Web, going to the Amazon to finally figure out what her past is.
Also, wouldn't it cost a lot of money to go to the Amazon?
Yeah,
like, fly to the Amazon.
And a lot of time. Like a lot of time.
So the movie, days, like, this must be like months later or so. Maybe weeks later.
It's supposed to be like immediate.
But it's immediately, she goes to Amazon, the fastest jet ever known.
She goes, then she has to ride a train, then ride a bus. It's like all these things. So she does a passenger plane to a little baby, like, personal plane to then a bus drive. And then she's in the jungle.
Fastest plane ever.
By the way, it's like just the quickest montage you can imagine of her traveling.
Like cutting so fast.
Like this should have been a longer.
Maybe there should have been scenes where they stop, like.
Or it would have been even cooler if she brought the girls with them and they were all in the Amazon.
Yeah, because
like, even that would have been.
There would
cooler.
be no grid. I mean,
like,
they wouldn't even be on the grid then, so it would have worked out.
You would have been the most off the grid you could ever be.
Yep.
Although you would have to go through. Anyway. That would have at least been more interesting of a plot, because the girls at least would have added, even though their dialogue.
They honestly, the girls, you know what's sad? I was like, why are they in this movie? I was like, what?
Yeah.
What did they accomplish? I was kind of hoping it was just Madam Web. Like, it was already horrible.
It's literally just like a reason for
the Spider-Women. That's all it's for.
Yeah. Well, it's a reason for Madam Web to have someone to protect. So there's like something going on.
Yeah. Even though you could have written... Maybe you could have written her protecting Spider-Man instead. Like Peter.
That would have been awesome.
Like protecting the baby from Ezekiel. But nope, can't have Peter.
No. Oh, that would have been sick if it was protecting the actual baby.
That would have been amazing. That would have made sense.
So she goes to the Amazon. Like I said earlier, because we jumped ahead of how bad this is, she then sees a photograph from 40 years ago, black and white photo.
Lines it up,
sees the exact area that looks the exact same, and then boom. There's that weird guy fully clothed in normal clothes being like, hello.
Yeah, he's normal all of a sudden.
He's like, I've been waiting for you. I promised your mother, who I didn't know, by the way. And I gave you up for adoption. I basically put like the least amount of effort possible into like taking care of you or helping you.
And then he says the great power, great responsibility line, essentially.
So it's not even, it's like different though. It's
completely different. It's like Amazing Spider-Man, how it did it, you know, how they didn't even like try. They were like purposefully trying to avoid this.
Amazing Spider-Man is...
it was an amazing movie. I actually think Amazing Spider-Man's a good movie.
So, and he takes her into that like pool area where her mom died, and like, he puts her in the water, right?
Yeah, he does put her in the water.
Yeah, puts her in the water, and then she like goes back in time and sees stuff that happened to her mom.
Like hugs visions. Her mom.
And then in the vision, gets to talk to and hug her mom, which doesn't make any sense.
And her mom's like, "I'm so proud of you. You know, I love you.
You did make me a strong woman, Mom." And then you find out that it was just mainly one of the spider to like heal her daughter. Essentially.
And she immediately reconciles this like begrudging hatred for her mother,
which also didn't even it didn't even seem like it was begrudging at the beginning, and then midway in the movie they're like, she hates her.
She's like, oh, why did you care about the spiders?
And then immediately resolved. It's immediately resolved. You're like, yeah, it's like
Immediately.
Like, oh, I love my mom. Cool.
No problem.
And you're like, oh. And then she goes, from that moment, then they're like, your powers are more than you think they are. You just have to accept the responsibility. Or whatever that means.
Yeah, it's like, what? Wait, what? What?
She then goes, so then it cut away from her, and you're back at Ben. Ben's being hilarious. There's like this cute
being
moment
funny, good writing.
Popcorn,
good writing.
And then her sister starts having the baby. And for some reason, so they're all staying with Ben on this like off the map house.
Yeah.
For some ungodly reason, Ben takes the 3 girls with her instead of leaving them at the house.
To deliver this baby.
In the city. So they immediately get seen
by Ezekiel. He sees them immediately.
I thought it would have been cool I thought Ben was going to have the baby, like deliver the baby.
Yeah, by himself. Yeah,
and I was like, this is cool. Like, this is awesome. And then all the girls would be a part of it, and I was like, this would be like really cute.
And then maybe Madam Web has like a fight with Ezekiel.
Yeah, like later or something. I don't even care if Ezekiel wasn't in the rest of the movie.
I agree with you.
I wouldn't even questioned it.
I would have thought.
I kept forgetting he was even a part of it.
I only liked him because he was like. I'm surprised memes have not been made of this guy's acting.
I'm not kidding. I'm literally like, oh. I was literally like, oh yeah. Like probably 3 times I forgot he's even in it.
I did too. I
was like, oh yeah, he's in the movie. I forgot too. Because they would just randomly show you clips of him being like, you need to find them.
The whole
and threatening a girl who's looking at the computer, like the hacker girl. They grabs her chin. He's like, I'm going to kill you if you don't.
Also, she sucks at her job. She's terrible.
Like, I can't find anyone. And you're like,
she's terrible at her job.
And then,
and then the ambulance thing starts.
So they immediately track them. So obviously when they go in the city, there's cameras, so they see the girls. Duh.
Yeah, he sees the girls. He's standing.
Also, they have this like insane advanced technology I've ever seen in 2003.
It's like the Batman. It's like Batman's surveillance technology, which is so over the top. It doesn't even it doesn't work.
Yeah. Even though they don't find him. Yeah, they don't find him barely ever. Even though it's supposed to be the most advanced thing ever. So, she gets back, which they don't even really show her coming back. There's no montage of her traveling back or anything.
She's just there.
So instead of doing something cool where they have Ben deliver the baby and the girls be a part of it, they go into the city like idiots.
Exposing themselves to Ezekiel immediately.
Then Ezekiel comes, tries to kill them, and
slowest possible way.
And Madam Web steals an ambulance. Sorry, guys. Steals an ambulance, speeding. This is the most ridiculous part of the whole movie.
It is stupid. It is really stupid.
She busts through a wall, not on ground level, like probably 2 stories high, 3 stories high, busts through a wall in an ambulance, flies over, because Ezekiel is on their car, punching their car.
He could kill them.
Yeah. He has them, basically. He stopped their car, he's on top of it, punching it. They're just sitting there waiting. I forgot to even mention what's happening. He's got them, basically. They're dead.
They're dead.
He's got them. It's finally over.
He's finally a threatening villain for 2 seconds.
Even though he didn't really do it. Anyway, busts through this 3-story wall and is about to go over Ezekiel. So Ezekiel's on this car this.
Clearly it's over.
He's about to go over Ezekiel. Even the shot, over. I was thinking oh, she missed. So I guess the goal was
I blocked this out.
I guess the goal was to not hit him.
I intentionally blocked this out.
Flies over. Ezekiel jumps up into the ambulance so it hits him.
It's like
we have to show that clip. We thought we could find it.
We thought we could find it, but we didn't. We basically
didn't. Jumps into the ambulance.
Copyrighted.
Gets exploded. Yeah, probably.
It was copyrighted and taken off.
It gets exploded. Falls. He jumps. I'm not kidding. Literally jumps into the ambulance that was going to miss him.
Yeah. So it's like this. So he's down here.
And then, so he leaps into it.
He jumps into it.
So that happens. Once again, he gets hit by a car, and that's how they beat him.
That's how they beat him again. He flies into
They jump in the ambulance, and then they fly. They drive. I don't even remember where they drive to.
They drive to this fireworks shop.
Oh, fireworks shop! Because she sees a vision of how they're going to beat him, and it's her vision is the fireworks shop exploding. And then her being on the roof, getting the kids to a helicopter safely. That's
her vision.
So she calls a police helicopter from the ambulance. Also, the Spider-Man catches up to them, jumps. They take a defibrillator, Start a defibrillator, stick it on the roof, so when he's touching the roof, he gets shocked.
And then flies off.
And then she crashes the car for some reason, and then
it explodes.
They don't explain why she crashes.
It burns
and then she keeps going, and then she keeps driving. And that's another dumb scene. So once again, he gets like annihilated the second he catches up.
And also, keep in mind, he's really slowly jumping between cars like it's leapfrog.
Yeah, he's going at a very slow pace. The whole movie is going at a slow pace, realistically.
He's not even threatening at all.
So they make it to this fireworks shop, which this whole part is this whole firework thing, unbelievable.
This might be the cream. This might be the cherry on top for how bad this movie is.
So they like start getting ready to blow up this place by setting like flares off and putting them on top of crates of fireworks. So he shows up. He gets blown up for a couple times. They make it up onto the roof. Long story. This is the horrible scene. Okay. Then they then call the police chopper. You're like, dude, they're gonna make it easy. Police chopper gets exploded by fireworks. Dead. Crashes. The fireworks.
I forgot the chopper.
Helicopter's dead immediately. Gone.
No one cares either.
Like, you guys are gonna have to get higher to get here. So they're like climbing higher while Ezekiel's like taking his sweet time.
He's like
to get anywhere.
Just going, I'll get you.
Like he's just like gone in the explosives for like a long period of time.
That's probably what he's doing off screen. He's like, I'll catch you.
Yeah. It's like a long time, like really long time, where it's like taking him to get up there. They get to the high ground. He's like, we can't make it. It's not safe. They're like, you have to get higher. So they're trying to get higher ground on the roof. Helicopter explodes by the fireworks.
It's dead.
So I guess those guys are just dead, and we don't care about.
No one cares. No one cares. They're like, no.
Dead, like dead people.
These people are dead. Poor guys are just doing their freaking job, and she gets them killed.
Remember, she lit that building on fire.
So she caused them to die.
So she caused the cops to die.
They're just doing their freaking job.
It's like, really good, Madam Web. Really glad you could see the future. Like,
I couldn't see that future.
So they explode, die.
Yeah, it was stupid. She still can't control her power.
Ezekiel finally shows up from taking his sweet time. Like, maybe he took a lunch break. Like, I don't even know what was
on set,
happening.
he was just sitting
like,
down.
Finally gets into the shot of, like, where he's at a point of being threatening, kind of. She gets punched harder than I've ever seen anyone get punched. Smacks into metal and is fine.
And keep in mind, he tells her...
That must have been... She must have gotten paralyzed at that moment. Which
she wasn't. At all. She wasn't even paralyzed.
Well,
she got back up.
At the end, she is.
Yeah, at the end. But she got back up. Like it was nothing.
Okay, yeah, so she did stand up.
She stands up like nothing happened.
I don't know. So there's a part where she gets punched really hard, and then she does stand back up. She, like, gets up. And she gets punched where she should be dead. Like, she hits metal, should be dead or something. She stands back up, which she's not a superhero in that way.
She has no dirt. She doesn't even... She's nothing. She's nothing. She's a normal human. She just
can see the future, and, like... So then... There's this whole scene that after she gets punched, and I'm like, what is... I was so confused.
She does limping a little bit.
My first thought is like, oh, she survived that punch and hitting metal. Like, nothing happened to her.
No.
I guess she's, like, limping maybe.
Maybe a little bit.
But it's like, whoa. That's absurd that just happened. She gets punched as hard as she possibly can. She's fine. Like, gets up, and then she starts doing her other powers, because each girl is separately, like, falling.
Yeah, they're
one girl, she's almost falling into the roof of the explosions. One girl, she's like about to fall off where the letters are. Oh, one girl's falling off the ledge of the cliff. Like, it's like, okay, they're all three separate.
Oh, they're dead.
And then he's like, you can't save them all.
And he's like, if you were me, you would have done the same thing.
Yeah, some sort of dialogue that I literally don't even remember.
And it's like, no, I wouldn't have done the same thing. I wouldn't have killed children. I would have just set them on a different path.
He's like, you can't save them all. Basically, it's like, what the crap. And then, so this whole time he's just above her, staring at her, like,
just sitting there, eyes probably crossed.
She then does this weird power thing where she's like, and then she warps into like three of her.
I'm definitely zooming in on that.
Like, so then she becomes three people that are all like weird. Like, she cloned herself, but they're like ghosts or something. I don't understand. She then helps each girl. One girl she just comforts, like, oh, like one of her clones is like, oh, you're gonna be okay. The other girl she like lifts up, and the other third girl she lifts up. The whole time, Ezekiel is just watching this happen, like watching them all get picked up and watching Madam Web. Like, could punch her and kill her. Instead, he's just like, well, this is crazy. Like, yikes.
This is crazy. What?
Yeah.
What's happening?
So they all get saved. He watches and does nothing.
Does nothing.
Then she gets punched again, harder than I've ever seen. Smacks into metal again, and then I think at that point she might have been paralyzed. Because then she's just crawling. Because then she doesn't actually get up after that.
Crawling.
She's like, so she like sees a vision of this letter falling on top of Ezekiel. So Ezekiel, at this point, really should assume that she can see the future. He does know that she can.
He knows that.
He then sees her staring at the same letter. Like, come a little closer, Ezekiel. Like. She like backs up, like come a little closer.
He's like a little animal, so and she's like beckoning him.
Keep seeing her look what's gonna fall. He doesn't even think anything of it.
He's like a deer in the headlights.
She's like
a deer in the headlights.
Keeps crawling back, and he's just like keeps walking at her. Of course, this thing falls, kills Ezekiel. Lamest villain of all time.
And then it's a Pepsi sign. So just a Pepsi sign falls directly on her.
Apparently.
And then he falls in the ocean and dies.
So I'm thinking that she got paralyzed at that point because she didn't stand up.
Yeah. Oh no, she was definitely paralyzed
at that point. And then like something happened where her eyes got hit.
She falls into the the sign collapses. She falls into the
water. So did she get paralyzed then?
And then
or was she paralyzed from the punch?
She was paralyzed from the punch.
Okay.
And
then they don't clarify in any way.
Oh no, they don't at all. And then this debris immediately falls down onto her face.
Okay, on her face. Should be dead.
Her eyes are gone. There are no eyes. She's either dead or her eyes are just like...
So she falls in the water, gets hit. I didn't even realize she got hit from how bad the shot was.
Oh, the visuals were so bad. They didn't even...
Yeah, didn't realize she got hit. Didn't realize her eyes got hit. Like, had no clue.
It was like... Whoosh.
So, then it's fast forward to her in the hospital. She survived.
She survived.
Ezekiel's dead.
Ezekiel's dead.
I've ever seen.
Oh, Peter's born. I mean,
Peter's born. That was another thing I wanted to mention. There was a pregnant woman in that car that Ezekiel's about to destroy earlier. You don't see anything about Ben and her story, like getting to the hospital or anything, the rest of the time.
No, not at all.
It's like, I was like, how funny would it be if you don't even see them again?
And that would have been horrible.
Because you don't. They're like, they don't mention the pregnancy thing until the very end. They don't say how they made it to the hospital. They don't show Ben commenting on the situation. Like, it's really just like, oh, nope. Like, not thinking about Ben now. Like, that plot's gone. I'm just like, what?
Wait, wasn't this whole thing about Spider-Man?
And don't get me wrong, they had enough time to do all this. They had 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
2 hours.
2 hours of nothing happening.
To make things make more sense. So anyways, they're in the hospital. You see Peter Parker being born. That's cool. Even though that's a total jump to like, oh, you almost died in a car accident. Now you're at the hospital.
Total jump. There's no like scene where he's escorting her.
Yeah.
Where he can look heroic. You know, he's like taking her there.
Yeah.
Because he was literally the best part of the movie. He had all the heart, the soul. The guy actually cared about what he was doing.
Yeah.
But they're there. She's born. I mean, he's born. Peter's born. And then freaking Madam Web's sitting there. She's got like the weird looking like blind thing on.
Yeah, but before that, she's in the hospital and they're like holding her hand.
Oh yeah, they are.
And they're all like, "We're here," and she's like, "I know," almost like it was their. It's like, no, duh, you're grabbing her hand.
Like,
but she almost made it seem like it was her powers.
I didn't even think of that.
I was like, they're holding her hand.
I was like, I didn't think about that at the time. My brain was just like,
so they're holding her hand, like, and then she's like, they come in there and she's like, "Are they all yours?" And then she goes, "Yes, they're all mine," even though they all have parents.
No. They're not.
They all have parents, and you're a total stranger still at this point.
You're a complete stranger.
Then you can explain. Then it fast forward to the part you're talking about.
And then it fast forwards to her. She says, "I can see you." She says, "This is like the most emotionless." Like Dakota Johnson is emotionless. She is not caring at this point. She's reached the peak of not caring.
So it's
I can see you in the future. Like
yeah, but it's the end scene. She's like got her blind glasses on. She's in a wheelchair. She's like cruising around.
Oh, you're talking about
They show up.
Apartment, yeah. Is that the apartment?
At the apartment, they show up. They're like living with her, which is weird because they have parents.
Yep, they have parents.
They all have parents.
They all have parents, and they don't seem that bad either.
No,
none of them.
Like
they didn't describe them being bad.
At least
at all.
they're your parent. Like yeah, they don't spend enough time with you, but like you still have places. Like
what are you talking?
You still have places to live.
What are you talking about?
Only one of them didn't really like. One of them where her dad was deported. Like that one didn't have parents, but the other one, but she could have been back with her dad in Mexico. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's
I don't know what to say about any of that, but it's like, okay, you all have parents that are alive, so I don't know why you're living with this stranger. Like, there's no way your parents will let you live with a stranger.
And you'd be much more safe in Mexico than there, because Ezekiel would be there looking for you.
So,
like, storyline-wise.
Yeah. So, they show up and like, and then she cuts her off. She's like, and she's like, pizza. And the girl's like, how'd you know? She asks, how did you know?
Madam Web can see.
At this point, you know she can see the future from the whole time. And you say, how did you know that I brought pizza?
How did you know? Like, this is
Then
the first...
she goes, bless you. And then a girl sneezes, so she says, bless you before a girl sneezes.
Like, how?
Like, she's like, I know my powers. Like, I can use my powers really well now. Like, it's so bad. And then,
so
even worse, it shows them, all the girls with their spider powers, and her with these giant glasses.
Like these, like, apple
and her going
glasses.
like this. And they're all like...
And you see the webs behind her, but not even...
And then that's the end of the
webs
movie.
Look horrible.
And that's the movie.
And she's like, I can see you in the future, fighting for what's right.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
like, not even caring.
What you believe in.
She doesn't even care. She doesn't care what's, like I said, Dakota Johnson, checked out. Done. She doesn't even care about what's happening.
So that is the movie. And we probably didn't even... It's so hard to remember.
We were both like we couldn't even remember half the details.
It's so hard to pick apart because it was that bad. Like, I love bad. Like I love bad movies. You do too.
I do.
We love bad movies. They're hilarious. They're fun. Like, they're fun. They're fun to pick apart. They're fun to watch. Like, they're enjoyable experiences. This was not.
This gave me an aneurysm.
I actually not enjoyable.
I was like, this. I walked out and I looked at these other guys who were walking out of the theater, and I was like, that's pretty. It was terrible. He's like, yeah, it was pretty bad.
So it was literally like, it was the first time that I was like, oh, I actually just wasted 2 hours of my. I actually wasted 2 hours of my life. That's the first time in my life.
The only thing
I've gone to see a movie and I was like, I just wasted my time.
The only thing that kept me not thinking I wasted my time was the fact that I had heated seats. That's it.
Yes, if I would have seen it at not that nice Imagine Theater with the nice seats, I would have been really
like,
upset.
This is the worst.
Yeah, because that kept me like at least really comfortable.
It kept me comfortable.
That's exactly what I said after we watched it. I was like, these seats are the only reason like this was worth doing.
And like, I got my popcorn, I got my drink. This is the only thing that's keeping me here.
Exactly.
And that was the funniest thing. I didn't think it was going to be this bad. I didn't think it was going to be this horrible. It's honestly kind of sad that they I remember seeing in the trailer, they basically forced Dakota Johnson to say, and all these people, they were saying their characters had dimension. They had no dimension at all. They were flat as cardboard. There was nothing about them.
There's no dimension. The lines, seriously, it is like, people always joke around like, oh, I could write a better script. This is the first time that I've ever said that, let alone the first time I actually believed, oh, I could write better dialogue than what these people wrote.
It was legitimately the worst thing I've ever seen. It was like any bad movie I can think of. None of those were this bad.
And they set it up for like they were going to make another movie.
I made fun of Batman and Robin. Keep in mind. Not nearly as bad as this.
They set it up to like make
another
movie.
And then Dakota's like, I'm out. I don't want to do this. And they're like, dude, she's going to be back in, dude. She's going to be back. We've got a future.
They said that?
That's what they're thinking clearly with the ending. They're like, dude, we're totally going to do this. We got this, guys. It's in the bag. Everyone's going to come back.
Who saw that and was like, this is worth putting out? I don't understand. It just goes to show how much... Do they just not know what they're doing? I'm so confused.
Sony is so sad. It makes me sad. It makes me sad because at least with the other movies, you had like enjoyable aspects where you had actors that were like... Actors like
good actors,
like I said, you had good actors that would actually hit their beats, and I'm mostly talking about like Venom was like Eddie was not the worst, like whatever his name is, Tom Hardy.
Dude, Venom, not a very good movie.
No, Tom Hardy,
but actually like really enjoyable
because Tom Hardy tried. With a horrible script.
He's a good actor, and it was just like entertaining. It was funny. It was actually like the jokes were actually funny.
And like, Venom killed people, which was cool.
That movie, dark fun. Like, really fun.
Not the greatest.
Not good.
Not the greatest.
Not that good.
No.
But bad in like a really good way.
Yeah, it was a fun.
Like, there was
movie
cool
to
parts. It was fun to watch. The action was cool. Like there was cool parts about it.
But this was horrible.
This was nothing like that.
Horrible. Morbius is better than this.
This made Jamie Foxx being that nerd guy.
Oh yeah, freaking Electro.
Looked like an incredible.
No, he looked incredible.
Like, looked incredible.
It's like Spider-Man, my birthday.
Yeah.
And keep in mind they undid that in the last Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
So they knew it was terrible. This they can't undo though. Sony will forever have this blight on their existence. They will forever have Madam Web as this is real. This happened. There's no covering this up. There's no changing it. You're not going to get Dakota Johnson back to go for round 2 or anyone who is in this movie to come back. You will never get them back. You also killed the villain at the end. So it's like, who else is going to be the next villain?
Yeah, dude, one of the buddies I went with said that it was basically, because I was so confused. I didn't know how to describe it. I was like, oh, this was such, there was no substance in that movie at all.
No.
And he was like, yeah, it's literally he said it was described like a nothing burger on the internet.
It was a nothing burger.
There is nothing about it that makes it worth watching.
It was legit nothing. It was a movie.
Yes,
it was a movie that
nothing.
shouldn't have existed.
Yes,
it
is better off not existing.
Now
even the worst part about it is that it existing or not existing doesn't matter because of how nothing
it is. Nothing.
It is nothing. It is a waste. It is a waste of time.
It is a waste of time. It was a waste of money. It was a waste of time. And to be honest, for me, I was in tears laughing the entire time.
The villain's voice was...
He was like...
It basically made it fun. At least that part was funny.
The villain, they didn't even have...
And it was fun seeing other people's reaction, being with other people.
It was fun
seeing how bad it was.
If it was just me, it would probably be... It'd still be funny.
It was fun looking at other people being just as shocked as me, what? I was literally standing up almost. I was like, what is happening?
Half the time I was like, who wrote this? Who scripted this? And I looked into this woman's credits. And you're going to find this absolutely hilarious. So you remember Jessica Jones, right? She wrote 2 episodes of that. I don't know what episodes they were, but she wrote 2 episodes of Jessica Jones.
Okay. The woman who played Jessica Jones, you're saying?
The woman who directed this movie.
Okay. Jessica Jones had some bad episodes, I'll tell you that.
And I'm starting to wonder if she might have contributed to that.
I don't really know how she was able to
get this high up.
These people, how would you get another chance after this?
No.
I feel like she will.
She would be blacklisted out of
I feel like she will get another chance to do another movie, I bet.
Madam Web? Do you think they'll do
person
a second?
directed? No.
Oh,
Madam Web is trash.
Yeah, no,
There's
I think
no
it's
way they're going to make another one.
I was like, oh no, there's no way they're bringing that back.
The only way they'd bring it back is if it was somebody else doing a totally different movie.
You have to redo it.
But that would be the only way.
Right now, we're kind of in a point where it's you're not going to be able to tarnish the name of, fix the name of this. The damage is done. Thanks, guys. Thanks for taking a character I loved. I love this character, by the way. I like this character.
Dude, a fitting shirt, too.
Yep. This was the guy I wanted in the movie the whole time.
And we saw him.
As a baby.
For a second. For literally 1 second.
So
Peter B. Parker.
Thanks for getting rid of my favorite character.
Yeah.
And not letting him be in a movie he should have been in. Like I said, they don't have Spider-Man in these movies. They try their darndest to avoid him being in these movies. I'm like, you still have Andrew Garfield. You still have rights to that version of the character.
Yeah, but technically it would make... You would have to make Madam Web older.
Yes.
It makes sense making her younger.
You could have put her in Amazing Spider-Man 3. You could have made an Amazing Spider-Man 3 with the same director. You could have had Madam Web.
I was excited because giving her own movie, I was like, this is really interesting.
Same here. And yes.
And I even thought I might go in it because I like bad movies. So
Same
I was
here.
I was thinking I would go into it and be like, oh, I actually enjoyed that. It was still cool. This was
worst.
The worst. It has to be the worst movie. I'm not kidding. I am not over exaggerating. I say it is potentially the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
I've made fun of Batman and Robin. Honestly, I feel I almost feel bad that I've made fun of it.
It is the worst blockbuster movie that I have ever seen.
Ever created. And this is Sony, by the way.
Yeah.
The original Spider-Man trilogy. Amazing Spider-Man movies. Yeah. Like, these people know how to do something. They know how to at least write a script.
Thing I've ever seen.
And they made it horrible.
By a long shot.
So, good job. God bless people.
God bless.
We're already at like the 60-minute. Basically, the episode filled up itself. Yeah. It filled up itself.